Wegenish ebabingit. Wegenish man piwan madabit. O maba? Maba gababiana. Kenny go sakmogam gom hikesha. Now, kegunga ken systemoki ginendam weekendemic kan Eshki-nishnaabemjig the kidwapa wingash pap kibidung minwa anishman the kan enjikidang shebagi yigidat kadabadadang wingash ne wingash ke kikida Nishnaabek Eshki-nishnaabemjig Giizsookwe kidwak anidash the sam okay, the story behind this. When we say wingash by itself, the noun, yeah, the K often is just basically dropped. Rapid normal English, casual speech, wingash. Technically, the word is wingashk. Because, yeah, like things that grow on the ground, like just assorted. In English, we call them weeds, although many weeds are not weeds. Like, I mean, it's just a subjective label, and you call something a weed if you don't perceive any usefulness to it. If it's not a weed, if it has some known usefulness or perceived usefulness, you don't call it a weed. But anyway, for us, anything that grows on the ground, like could be like mijashk, just generally mijashk, okay? So wingashk. So this is one kind of thing that grows on the ground. Wingashk is one kind of mijashk. Okay, so there's a k there. So because although we don't hear it when we have the word by itself, wingash, in very casual speech, when Nishnaabek are talking about picking wingashk, they typically say this Giizsookwe. So that's where you know, okay, yeah, there's a k there. It was there all along, we just didn't pronounce it. You know, sometimes I think of how what English speakers call, they say, oh, I'll take a picture of you. Picture. A more person who speaks more conscientious about, oh, there's a C there, I'll take a picture of you. You know, casual speech, you drop some sounds, eh? So that's what happens with Mingash a lot. And many other words too. So that's where the k is coming from. And then because we're making a word for the idea of picking sweetgrass, we're not treating it as two separate words like you do in English. Picking sweetgrass. The whole word needs to flow in a way that Nishnaabek are used to. So in this word, the represents one consonant sound. It's not two sounds like nga. Nga. You're forming one sound. Like in the sound ring, sing, long. It's one sound, okay? So, yeah. I can't recall who I explained this short vowel syllable pair business to. So if you're hearing it again, maybe it'll just become more, you'll be able to figure out more what's going on with this business, okay? And this one, although it looks like two separate sounds, and I guess in a way it is, but these particular, there are several words that I notice this combination appears, and they always seem to hang together. We never split them up the way we do here, like gush. Generally, I don't notice ever a short vowel popping up between sh and k in those words that have that cluster. It seems to just stick together. So the Nishnaabe speech pattern is that long vowel syllables always get accented. When you have this kind of consonant cluster, that's a signal that in other word forms, if you sort of pull out the word fully, like an accordion, pull out the accordion, you would pick up the G and the O. Okay? So when we say Giizsookwe, we stretch those out, so you end up with a short vowel, a pair of syllables, each with a short vowel. Short vowel, syllable, and we pair these up, which is why I'm writing short vowel, syllable pair. And in that pair, all the time, the second one gets the accent. This one is unstressed. You don't have an accent on it. You might hear it a little bit depending on the speaker. Again, wiki folks, if something is unstressed, they basically, you can't hear it. So that's why it sounds like in wiki folks' speech, Giizsookwe. This thing is hidden here. And over here, it wasn't needed over here. It's just needed when you start adding this thing to make a different word. Giizsookwe. And it's just the way we're used to having our words flow. Giizsookwe. Okay. Giizsookwe. We're just used to that flow. We're not used to a flow like Giizsookwe. It's a little bit off because it's like, the accent needs to go on a short vowel after that. This is supposed to be unaccented. We're just used to that. That's the reason Nishnaabemjig generally wouldn't say Giizsookwe. When they're talking about picking sweetgrass, they're going to come out with Giizsookwe. Okay. So that's the story behind that. I just wanted to let people know. Yeah. If you happen to hear any of us talk about picking sweetgrass, why it sounds quite different from what Eshki-nishnaabemjig said this morning, that's why. Okay? Miwinje. That is why. Miwinje. Yeah, if you ever want to say, that's why. Miwinje. Yeah. After you explain why. Zamsa, kegete, ashanda kebe. Manda there's nicking, Jim the target, kiduin, Mandabade, kidding, me winje, and kidding, Manda. Me winje. Kenner argo. Gaa-kinoomaaged, Gaa-kinoomaaged. Yeah. Oh, yeah. The other point I made was that, yeah, when we're saying the word by itself, it's like, yeah, technically speaking, your mouth can produce the sound wing. It just doesn't conform to our flow of words. Like, because we don't tend to have consonant clusters at the end. We tend to have them at the beginning of words. Like in English, you're used to consonant clusters at the end, no big deal. Send, and so on. Edict, and so on. Nishnaabemwin doesn't tend to have consonant clusters. If you have something like this, you're going to hear a short vowel at the end of the word. Depending on the word. It doesn't have to be a short vowel all the time. So that's the only reason I was writing this thing. Yeah, nobody would ever say winch as a word. And somebody was just asking about spelling the nasal sound, signaling that a vowel is nasal. So the only reason I jotted that down. And somebody was just asking about kuiwab-mana. So we just discussed that a little bit. So this came up in relation to what I'm going to give you, nungo. So yesterday we got into VTAs in imperatives, right? So what I did for you Tibikong, Giizsookwe, Giizsookwe, Giimandobian, Wamajidoek, Wiegenoomdemek, Wienanagedoendemek, oh. Oh, Beshkiabe, Anjida. Now, triple much ta, because that became a very involved explanation of what of my trying to explain Nishnaabemwin grammar in Nishnaabemya. Very tricky. We don't have nice, nifty short phrases like imperatives. We got to use verbs, which makes for, we got to have clauses, which means got to conjugate the verbs in some way, and so on and so forth. Anyhow, Hui Nishnaabemjig Wishaganashim. Kimben Keta. Kego Hui Kwedwe?
Basic, Jibige, basic, Kidwinanan. Basic. Kidwin? Ka.
Oh, sentence. Yeah, how?
Do Giabchaton Kidwin, Ginago Kidwin.
Nboch a?
Gajibige. Asmatic.
How?
Bama?
Minjidik. We should be good. No, how should be good. We should be good. Manda guye namadabit, manda shishchiget kaden. Oh, dama. We begadese, dakidam. We begadese. No, we begadese. Migina mage kidding given. To be school, no chink, enjidamnang, a good day. Sabab, Tem got cherry mudding. Bino chink. Webzook. Bino chink. Yeah, ich bin mudding. Do we begadese. And cat, manda. Do she webanan. Do we begadese. Pichibabiak. Patsy, we jibiang. Exitut. Gadejada wegamgung. Chiboa. Gaboch a. Ben boch ishin. Now. Wegenesh verb. Wegenesh verb. Jean. Wegenesh verb. Now you have two tenses there. I mean, I'm seeing ga deja, so which is anish wakiri gaja mage deja. One or the other. There's no inflection that combines ga and de. So I don't know what tense you're talking.
Okay. Mr.
Gaja daigam gung. Now, Mr. Tan. Chiboa. Gajada wegam gung. So stagut. Chiboa.
Gabuacha?
Nbocha. Jebe. Verb stem. Nbocha. Again, casual speech, you don't pick up the n sound, but when you add a prefix with a vowel, then you hear that n.
Okay, Jibuan.
Jibuan boch. So Jibuan. And gan now beyond gashabi man Jibuan. Nboch is the start of the verb. Now, who are you going to, before you visit whom?
You come visit me.
Oh, okay. Don't come yet. Daigam gonga kesha. Jibwa.
You come visit me.
Oh, okay, you come visit me. Jibwa. Bi. There's the come idea. Giizsookwe e yin. Giizsookwe, before you come visit me, Giizsookwe be nboch e yin. Miwe. Manda Kirian. In this context, the idea of before somebody does something, in this case you visit me, you're going into a conjunct form. And VTA's conjunct forms, I haven't, somewhere in my curriculum, I made a list of those. I don't know if I can dig it up in my laptop somewhere. Yeah, the VTA, you use some of the same suffixes that you use with inanimate, intransitives, like wisniin, nakiin, anishpi enkiin, when do you work? Anishpi wa wisniin, when do you want to eat? So the same suffixes come up, but they're sort of a little bit harder to predict, because when you have transitives, you have two people. Somebody doing something to somebody. So in a conjunct form, who is marked? That's where it gets sort of starts to look random. So we're using the combination of the verb stem form. Are you going to come and visit me? Kui bin bochina. Kui bin bochina. Are you going to come and visit me? Kui bin bochina. Kui un boch in. Kui un boch in. Yes, I want to go visit you. Kui un boch in. Not a conjunct, that's a main clause. I want to go visit you. Oh, now. Giizsookwe bin boch in, before you come visit me. Nga. Now I would naturally add a ke. Nga ke jadaigam gung. Why am I adding ke? Because I'm going to do this first. This signals nga jadaigam gung, but I'll come back from there, is what this signals. Because you want to come and visit me. I'm not going to take off to the store and be gone all day. I don't have a whole bunch of shopping to do. I just need to go pick up something quickly, and I'll do that. And then I'll come back. Then you can come and visit me, is the implicit message. So that's why I'm naturally sticking in a ke. And apparently the full-blown form of ke, which you would see here in Minnesota, is koe. Nga koe ja dawe game gong. Nga koe ja dawe game gong. Might be how a Minnesota lilt might be in speech. Some wiki folks, you'll still hear them say koe because they're chucking the short vowel, unstressed short vowel, and then extreme chucking of sounds. It comes out like simply ke a lot, which is because what I was hearing in my mind, hearing growing up, that's how I would write it in the course materials when I was teaching. But if you see elsewhere kwe, if you see elsewhere koe, exact same idea. I'm going to do something, then I'll come and resume what I was planning to do, what I was doing, or continue with this other activity I was planning to do, is the message of ke. Okay, like for those who smoke. Oh, nuyo kezgaswa. I'm going out for a smoke. When I hear ke, I know that they're going to come back after they finish their smoking. You're heading out of town, got a long drive ahead of you. You're rushing around. I might tell you, kewi snin. In English, I would say that means eat first, but first in the sense of first before you head out, before you hit the road. Kewi snin. Make sure, like, fill up so you don't have to stop on the way. if you're in a rush to get to wherever you're going. Kewisnin, eat first. So sometimes, depending on the context, first is a way to translate that. But first in that kind of context. First before you do something else, before you head out on the road. And yeah, like because we're so used to how we, like the sounds we grew up with, knowing these variations, I was when I was working on the dictionary, meeting with the wiki group that I met with, I asked them, okay, just to get a sense, do they have a definite sense of what is the correct way? And I said, okay, Eshki-nishnaabemjig. Gaa-kinoomaaged. And one of the Eshki-nishnaabemwin, an elder woman, very emphatically said, Ke. So in her mind, this is the correct way. Only because that's what she grew up hearing. That Eshki-nishnaabemwin, Giizsookwe simdana nangun sapun Giizsookwe. Magen tros mit na shinanen. Kchipite ze. So, we gewe in and then Ke, miwe Eshki-dan, Gaa-kwe. Anen bekan zitjik, Kwe, kidok, no, so start. Now, okay. Kansastamonim. So again, my attempt to explain grammar in Nishnaabemwin, okay, speaking in our language. Okay, so and the form of the imperative verb, so I'm using as an example the verb for helping somebody. Okay, so the way I set this up, in this first column, first of all, the heading. The way I tried to get across the idea of imperative is, what does an imperative do? Imperatives, what you're doing when you use those is you're telling somebody is being told what to do. That's when imperatives are used. So somebody, nind, is being told, passive voice in English. Somebody is being told to do. We should get. Although in English, when you say to do, that's considered infinitive. You're not marking the person who's to do it. You already know it's somebody. In Nishnaabemwin, when you use verbs, you gotta signal who is doing the action. We should get some third person, hence the T. Nind, we should get. Somebody being told, nind is being told. To do, we should get. Gego, something. So that's what that first part up to the comma, that's what I'm saying there. Somebody is being told to do something. With VTAs being used, passive voice again, VTA nakazang. When VTAs are being used, nakazang. So that's the heading I chose to try and convey the idea of imperatives. Okay. Weganish, we washes to get. Who is going to do that? It's one way to explain, like, who are you? When you say an imperative, who is supposed to do the action you're telling needs to be done? The other way I thought I might express that, and that's why I put it in brackets, is weshki-anishinaabemojig, who is being spoken to? Now that might not be the most precise way, because I could be speaking to one of you, but in saying, help me, although I'm looking at one of you, I could mean in my mind, all of you help me. So that's why that's not a very precise way. Okay. So this is more clearly, who is supposed to do that action that I'm telling needs to be done? Who's going to do that action? So that's the various people. It's either one of you, or it's going to be two or more of you. Ginwa is who I want to be doing that action. Second column, if I'm talking to one of you, who are you going to do that to? If I'm talking to more than one of you, or I'm wanting two or more of you to do that, weshki-anishinaabemojig. I'm saying dodowek down here if I'm talking or wanting two or more of you because it's more than one of you. This is weshki-anishinaabemojig. Who are you supposed to do that to? Who are you, one of you, supposed to do that to? Weshki-anishinaabemojig. Who are you guys supposed to do that to? So that's why you're hearing dodowat in one part and dodowek in the other part. Okay? So, and then the third column is Niibing. Enat is that na in the conjunct form. What are you telling that person to do? So na, depending on the sentence, basically it means say something to somebody. And I would translate it in that way if I were relating a story using a bunch of quotes. It's like in English when you say, so he says to me, quote. So I says to him, quote. He says to me, quote. So that's where na would make sense as a translation. Like, ndina, Dick, he says to me. Ndina, I says to him. Dick, he says to me. Whatever the quotations are, okay? But very often in normal speech in English, we are using the same Nishnaabemwin verb, but you're saying something in the context of telling somebody to do something. So na is one way, that verb set is one of the way to say tell somebody something in Nishnaabemwin. Okay, so in this context, that makes better sense. What are you telling him or her to do? What is he or she to do? What are you telling him to do? Or okay, Eshki-nishnaabemjig. What are one of you, one person, one you telling him to do? If it's you guys, I'm telling to do something. Eshki-nishnaabemjig. Sorry. Eshki-nishnaabemjig. If I'm telling you to do something to more than one person, what are you telling them to do? What are you telling them to do? So there is no short way of saying English grammatical ideas. I'm having to form sentences that then get very complicated because I'm always having to mark who, to whom, who, to whom. So you get all these assorted verb inflections. So the first column, weshki-anishinaabemjig. So either one of you, gin, or two or more of you, ginwa. Weshki-anishinaabemjig. If it's one person, win, one person, him or her, or them people, them, two or more people. Weshki-anishinaabemjig. Winwa, whoever they is, whoever they are. Weshki-anishinaabemjig. If it's just me, one of me, or if it's us, me and some other third person or persons. Ninue equals means me and some other third persons. Okay, so what you do to the verb depends on this combination. Who's doing the action? Who's supposed to do the action? And to whom are they doing it, or for whom? Okay. So this one is your basic verb stem that I showed in that step chart. Nadamo, help him, or help her. If I want to say help them, conveniently, mercifully, the same verb. You don't need to change the verb. One less little thing to sort out in your mind. You got plenty of other things to sort out in your mind. If I'm telling you to help me, just little old me, not emotion. One of you, help me, not emotion. Okay? If I need two or more of you to help me, not emoshik. Now we're starting to see some changes. Not emoshik. Two or more, or all of you, not emoshik. If it's one of you helping us, me and somebody else, not emoshenang. And in that case again, whether it's one of you, I want to help us, or two or more of you, in that case again, same verb, naademoshinang, same suffix. And similarly with you guys, oh, no, okay, what's the difference here? Two or more of you helping one person, you guys help him, naademowik. You guys help them, same verb, naademowik. So that's how I set this up. So those are your basic verb endings for the various situations. And down here, kish bin wawinind wa naademowin. If the person to be helped is named, if you're giving the name, whether it's a proper name or whether it's just a noun designating who it is. So that's that heading. And again, I'm putting in passive voice. Wawinind, wa naademowin. If he or she who is to be helped is named, passive voice, okay? That's why you have to see those unfamiliar verb forms. I forgot to put the brackets in D over here. The reason I'm putting brackets around the D, and I did it up here too, is because historically, when people were speaking more, I don't want to say properly, but enunciating better, you might say. Okay, not speaking so casually as we tend to do these days. Genonind. There was a D there. And when you see transcriptions of stories that linguists and ethnologists transcribed years ago, back in the 1930s, 40s, for example, Bloomfield's transcriptions of Andrew Medler's stories, he heard, when this kind of word came up, Andrew Medler would have said genonind. Linguist heard genonind and wrote it with a D. Speech in Wiki, a lot of speakers don't say that anymore. You'll just hear genonin. But you pick it up if this has to be pluralized. Anishpi genondwa. When are you talking to them? Then you're going to hear the D. Anishpi genondwa. When do you talk to them? Okay? So that's how we know it's there. In my early years of teaching, because I was just hearing in my mind, right, spell it like it sounds. Okay, it sounds like genonin. Okay, in the plural. Okay, now you hear D. I would treat the D as a suffix, part of the plural suffix, talking to them. But then after reading Rand Valentine's stuff, oh, right, yeah, actually, the suffix is wa, the nd is actually there, part of the verb stem. So I put it in brackets only to signal. From some speakers you'll hear it, some others you won't. Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, so I just gave some examples here. So I just, again, repeated this, some of the stuff from up here just in shortened form. Weshki-anishinaabemjig, who's supposed to do it, or genonind, who's being spoken to. Again, probably the top phrasing is better. Who's supposed to do that? Weshki-anishinaabemjig. Wadodwatwe. To whom you're going to do that. If I'm talking to one of you, to whom you're going to do that. Or I want one of you to do something. Or if it's two or more of you, wadodwekwe, who you're going to do that to. For example, help. When I say help him, who do I want you to help? I took as an example, your little sister or your little brother, kshime. Just to show if you need to name the person to be helped, and that's generally going to be a third person. If I'm looking at you and saying, naademoshin, you know me, I don't need to tell you my name. I could, if there were several of you sitting there, and I wanted one person to specifically help me, the guy with the biggest muscles, I might name the guy. Paul, naademoshin, which is different from this one. This one is help your little sister, or help your little brother. You just tack on the noun. That's all I'm showing here. And if the people you need to help, I want you to help, happen to be more than one person, your little sisters, or your little brothers, or your little siblings. For us, we don't have a different term for younger sister or younger brother. The same term, kshime, can mean either your younger sister or your younger brother. Okay, but if there's two or more of them, help your little siblings, your younger siblings. Plural noun, Eshki-nishnaabemjig. But because when we say help them, the verb doesn't change, you just need the plural noun, Eshki-nishnaabemjig. So that's why the ik pops up in the noun. Now, it's a big family. I want two of you older kids to help one of your younger siblings. Or you have one younger sibling, there's just three of you. I want you two older siblings to help your younger sibling. Now, it's two of you. The younger sibling is the sibling of the two of you. It's yours. Like, you guys, little sister. So the possessor needs to be shown as being plural. It's not just one of your, when I say your sister, it's not just you, sister, it's your and your sister, okay? So Eshki-nishnaabemwin. So the wa comes up because the possessors are two or more people, two or more yous. Still one little sister. Okay, Eshki-nishnaabemwin. Now, bigger family, more than three. So I want the two older siblings to help the two younger siblings. Plural possessor, your. Plural siblings. Nishnaabemwin, same verb. Eshki-nishnaabemwin. Eshki-nishnaabemwin is the plural, your guys, little sibling, but it's more than one. Eshki-nishnaabemwin. Eshki-nishnaabemwin. That's why the suffix now becomes wak on the noun. And that's why I never got into kin terms in the early years of teaching. There's so much to sort out because they are, two ways of saying it, obligatorily possessed. When you have a kin term, you got to show, the noun has to be in a form that shows whose family member is that, whose sister, whose brother, whose uncle. One of you or two or more of you are mine, or me and my brothers, or me and your aunt. And on top of that, not just that, on top of that, how is she your aunt? Is she your aunt because she's your mother's sister? Or is she your aunt because she's your father's sister? Stuff like that, and we were very precise for certain kin terms, exactly how we were related. And people are becoming unfamiliar with that. Back in the day, me talking about, when I would hear my mother call her female cousin, my cousin, she used a specific term, dangshen. Now, my father died when I was 6, so I never got to hear my father refer to a female cousin. But I found in Rhodes Dictionary that a man referring to his female cousin would have used the term, I forget the term now, because I hardly ever heard. So that was important. It was important to use the proper term depending on woman referring to woman cousin, or man referring to woman cousin, and vice versa. Back in the day, that was important. When we had the clan system, we had relatively small communities. I suppose, now this is not a definite fact, I'm just sort of putting two and two together in a certain way. When you have a small community, relative, like our population of Nishnabek was not 20 million, it was however many thousands. And we were in small communities, we weren't gallivanting all over the country, meeting up with distant cousins over in British Columbia. We probably didn't have distant cousins in British Columbia back in the day. Our distant cousins might have been Nimkiwi-kwedang or down in Kedwanang. That might be how far afield we could reasonably travel in a normal lifetime, okay? So you had a relatively small circle of people from whom you could find a marriage partner. You had to ensure no inbreeding happened. So instead of explaining it in scientific technical terms, They knew that something wrong could happen if people married who were too closely related and had kids. They picked that up, of course, very early in the existence of a people. So what they did instead to flag that somebody was out of bounds. Now, this is just my hypothesis. That's how these terms evolved. If you heard of somebody being spoken of in a way much like how you'd speak of your brother if you were a young woman, you don't marry your immediate siblings. You didn't need to be told you can't marry him because he's like a brother to you. You just knew the term. Okay, out of bounds. Better go looking for another cute guy. Or vice versa, a guy. Oh yeah, she's out of bounds. Better go look for another cute girl, kind of thing. My theory is that that's part, like in part at least, how these specific terms evolved, because they went along, it's like, because of the clan line being like along the mange. Like before I married, I was part of my father's clan, whatever that clan was. In my family, it just never came up growing up that you are this clan or that clan. And the man I married, all I knew was he was a Corbiere because his father was a Corbiere. I was not Giizsookwe because my father was not Giizsookwe. We were second cousins, which in the Catholic system is a bit shade too close. There are people who did tell us after we got married, you guys shouldn't have married, you got away Mawa, you're related to him, you're related to each other. By that time it's like, okay, it happens. People think it shouldn't happen, some people figure, oh, okay, not too closely related, their kids are gonna be okay, you know, and so on. Yeah, but now, the context in which we live, the people we see, we're exposed to as young kids, teenagers, many different people, because young people are going off to universities. By the 1930s, 40s, Anishinaabe were going off the reserve to work, some of them. They're meeting people totally outside the community. You didn't need to worry about, is this French person in the same clan? No. If we liked each other, okay, let's get together and make the Métis Nation. Just kidding. They just had kids. and if the French guy settled with the Anishinaabe and became like, learned the culture, began to live the Nishnaabe way, the kid grew up in the Nishnaabe way, they didn't make a distinction originally as, of course we knew they were mixed blood. We have a term for that, aptosi, and now it has a pejorative tone. Back in the day, it might not have been a pejorative thing. It might just have been a statement to that, oh yeah, child of two different kinds of people, French and Anishinaabe. That might like just half-blood kind of thing, eh? But yeah, over the years, because of how it was used in, like, yeah, historically, when two groups have sort of had kids, it was regarded as bad. Eh? It's like, oh, you married that black guy. Like prejudice, eh? And that's what caused this negative connotation to come up with people of mixed blood. You know, but historically, if among Anishinaabe it wasn't an issue, French guy, nice guy, learns to hunt like us, kind to my sister, Eshki-nishnaabemjig. Well, in this case, what's the term for brother-in-law? Guy to brother-in-law, different term. Oh, and jokingly, my husband's brother-in-law used to call him Nishnaabemwin, something about face. It was more of a joking term. Yeah, that guy who's saying Nishnaabemwin to me was Niibing. I never knew that term. I just found it in Rhodes. Niibing, my brother-in-law. Okay, yeah, but that became irrelevant because it's like now people are marrying others from very different communities. It wasn't as critical anymore to know, are you the same clan? Especially if they were non-native, then you knew categorically they were not the same clan, no risk. So people are now less familiar with those precise terms. I've heard women talk about their woman cousin as nitais, which is a man's term historically. Man calling another man his cousin, if they're cousins, nitais. Kwewak would have said dangshe for if the cousin was a woman, woman to woman cousins, dangshe. If it was woman to man cousin, can't remember, it might have been Niibing. Anyhow, So that's a long story behind kin terms. Apart from the inflections of who's the possessor, how many possessors, on top of that is how are they related to them? Exactly. Okay, so that's that. And I also, Giizsookwe, just a few more examples, and then I left a space if you want to try a verb that you think you might use as imperatives. Now, the ones I tried to think of were ones where you could have the whole slew of possible imperatives. Like you can say, help him, help them, help me, help us, and so on. Like many animate verbs, you're just going to hear them in the third person form. You're not normally going to hear them and do that to me, because an object with VTAs can be a non-person, not a human being. Yeah, and I didn't label what the verbs meant. Kikendana edming mish. I think that's what we started off with yesterday. Give something to him. So, genomo might be another one that might come up naturally. Anish edming genomo. Kikendana genomo. Yeah, show it to me. Yeah, show something to me. It could be a concrete thing, some tangible thing, or it could be how to do something. Genomo shin waje nimia when it came. Genomo shin BTS ejenim what we jenimia. Gotta learn those BTS moves. Genomo shik if I want two or more of you to show me that. And so on. So that's the show commands. Show something to me. Nash, kikendana nash. Nana. Did you hear last week? Gada na 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 na, or something like that? My favorite tongue twister. Gada na 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 na. We should go and get Nana, eh? So that's Nash. Now for that particular one, if it's me, I'm naturally going to add be, because I'm here. And for you to get me, you need to come get me. Okay, so some of these commands would naturally have a preverb. Okay, Binanchin, come get me. My car broke down. I'm stuck over here on this big highway. Binanchin. Or Binanchik. Binanchinang. Binanchinang. Nanik. Yeah, if somebody's over there, it's like, Nanik, go get him. Okay. Weiju, kikendana weiju. So that's another example. I thought, oh yeah, we could conceivably say that of any combination. You, him or her, you, me, you, us. Weiju, kikendana weiju. Weijiwa. Go with somebody. Accompany somebody. Weiju. Go with him. Go with her. Weiju. Go with them. Weijushin. Go with me. I don't want to go to the dance alone. Weijushin. You guys, go with me. Weijushik. Weijushinang. Go with us. And so on. Okay, so that's verb. Now this one, I'm glad I thought of that, because last week I was telling you, okay, if you see a W in the Weijiwa, then you're going to hear ok in that number 4 form. This is another exception to the exception. Apparently not. It's not Weijiwak, it's Weijiyik. Weijiyik. So as a command, go with him. You guys go with him. Weijiyik. You guys go with them. Weijiyik. So that's that. Bobby. Kikendana Bobby. Wait for somebody. Yeah, and I just arbitrarily put Y as the terminal consonant in the command, because again, some sounds, like, they vary a fair bit. Okay, we got to pick a letter. What are our options for when you hear, I'm waiting for him. Anish kikendana ejikidang, I'm waiting for him. Anish ejikidang, I'm waiting for him. Niibing. Yeah. Bobby. Now, it sounds like if we're going purely by sound, Niibing. Now, that just looks like a strange combination of vowels, although it reflects the sound. So, some people, you hear it more of a glottal stop, Bobby. If you hear it as Bobby, somebody think, oh yeah, there's a Y there, right? Yeah, so different people make different decisions. You know, it's like, okay, I think a lot of people would write Bobby with a Y. That's fine. All we need to know is consonant, vowel makes a syllable, consonant, vowel makes a syllable. So let's put something in there to represent some kind of consonant, whether it's glottal stop, or more of a ya sound, as long as there's a consonant, okay? So that's that. Yeah, so I was working off of this spelling. Yeah, so that's the I, him, or her statement form. I'm waiting for him. Niibing. Wait for him. Bobby. Or, are you waiting for me? Gaa-kinoomaaged. Gaa-kinoomaaged. Are you waiting for me? Gaa-kinoomaaged. So that's that other form. I'll wait for you. Gaa-kinoomaaged. Or Gaa-kinoomaaged. Whichever, apostrophe or Y, some consonant. I always forget. I don't have my chart on me. Oh, down. Okay. I don't have a copy of that chart anymore. What's the? Oh, he's waiting for you. He's waiting for you. Gaa-kinoomaaged. Yeah. Okay. So that's the verb I'm working with there. This is the one that works as also the command. Wait for him. So that's why, that's the story behind the Y in Bobby. 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 Bobby Shin. Bobby Shik. Bobby Shinang. Bobby Shinang. Bobby. Okay, so that's it. So those are the examples I thought of just to show the pattern with a variety of verbs. That could conceivably be used like, you guys wait for me. You guys go with me. You guys give that to me, and so on. So if you think, I left a space for you, if you think of another verb that could have all 7 possible forms, like that could be used in any of those forms in real life. Giizsookwe. Niibing. Oh, Niishnaabemwin. But anyway, Tim got Giizsookwe. Kishpin epichuisning, gegum quendmek. Giizsookwe, we kwejmiek, kwejmishik. Oh, maar verb nu getje mina mandige ikkedang. Kwejmishik kishpin. Yeah, we're not going to have a verb for cooking something animate because I'm not ever going to tell somebody cook me. Grammatically, verb-wise, morphologically, I could say that. Mnazwishin. Never going to be said in real life. Yeah, so there might, there's only certain verbs that you're going to naturally occur in actual normal everyday speech in possibly any of those forms. Like any inanimates, you would just technically hear the ween forms. Like mnazomzise, cook the turkey. Or sounds go quash, go kosh. Fry the bacon. Sounds go quash. Yeah, but you're never going to hear fry me. Sounds go quanchin. And so on. Now, me sadbaganek wiwisning. Ni sandueda. O wisneda. Oh. Oh. Minjirik. Kai we kan do Nishnaabemwin kana sik. Tamikse. Bobby tosajigas what? Potatoes being layered. Bobby tosajigas what? Pinik. And I mean, I guess you could come up with a big long phrase about the cream and the sauce and the baking. But when we are talking, we zero in on a salient feature and stop our words there. That's why we call a rattlesnake medwin, the thing that makes a sound, rather than medwin no big is it the thing that makes a sound that is long and crawls on the ground. It's enough to say medwin. Oh yeah, talking about a rattlesnake.